Welcome to the class 10 students. This is the continuation part of the chapter movement and locomotion. In my last video I have talked in details about movement in fish and movement in birds, and just for a revision, the organs of the birds that are needed for their flight are their wings, the feathers on the wings, and the flight muscles. So the all the flight muscles, their functions are very important for your examination. Okay, next moving on to the topic of locomotion in human, it is basically known as bipedal locomotion. What is bipedal locomotion? Bi means two, pedal means legs. So the locomotion that is done with the help of two legs, and it needs three steps: propulsion, support, and balance. Propulsion means it will take a support from something and then it will move forward, and it will give support on one leg and then balance, and then again the same thing will happen with the other leg. So propulsion, support, and balance, each leg undergoes these three steps while we human beings undergo bipedal locomotion. Okay, so the stages of bipedal locomotion, just learn that it is known as bipedal locomotion and there are three stages: propulsion, support, and balance. You don't need to go through the detailed stages of bipedal locomotion which is given in page number 74. Only learn the name of the three stages. Okay, that's it. Next, I will move on to the role of movable joints and skeletal muscles in human locomotion. For that, let me tell you that there are three types of joints. First one is the immovable joint. Immovable joint. What is immovable joint? The joint between bones which are firmly attached with each other. For example, there are our skull bones, right? And the skull bones are joined to each other by immovable joints. Look into this picture. There are joints, these are the skull bones, and there are joints, right? So we cannot bend the parts of our skull, they are immovable. So skull bones, the joints of the skull bones are examples of immovable joint. Okay, next is semi-movable joint. Semi-movable means which can be moved partially. Okay, where the joint allows little flexible movement is known as semi-movable joint. Joint between adjacent vertebrae of vertebral column. So our vertebral column has many small bones in parts, and the joint between those bones of the vertebral column has a means they can be moved partially. Very little flexible movement can take place within those joints. Okay, so that is a very good example of semi-movable joint. And the third one is movable joint. Obviously, movable joint means the joints which can be moved freely, where the joint allows free movement of the bones in different direction, is known as movable joint. Now, movable joint is of two types. There are many types of movable joint. For class 10, you have two types of movable joint. One is the ball and socket joint, and the other one is the hinge joint. Okay, now what is the ball and socket joint? This type of joint is formed when a rounded head ball of one bone fits into the cup-shaped socket of another. So here our shoulder, okay, so this bone of our arm has a head which makes the ball. Okay, and here this bone has a socket like structure here. So suppose this is the bone that is present here. It has a head like this, and then the bone starts, and this is the shoulder which grips the bone like this. Okay, so it forms the ball and socket joint. This forms the ball and this forms the socket, and they can be freely movable in any direction. We can move our hand in any direction, right? So this is the ball and socket joint. There are two ball and socket joints in our body. One is the shoulder joint and another one is the hip joint. This is known as the pectoral girdle. Here the shoulder part is known as the pectoral girdle, and then the hip joint, there it is known as the pelvic girdle. So hip joint and shoulder joint are the two examples of ball and socket joint in our body. Moving on to the hinge joint. What is the example of the hinge joint? See, look into your book. In this joint, the bones move like the hinge of a door. We have the window stoppers, right, so that the window doesn't move in the wind. So just like that, just like the hinges of the doors and the windows, these joints can only move in like only it allows 180-degree direction. Okay, just like this one. Okay, so I can move it like this. I cannot bring it downwards than this. So this is one hinge joint, and another one which I cannot show you right now in the video is our knees. We can only move it like this, and it does not go beyond that. So our knee moves like this. Okay, so these are the two hinge joints, our elbow joint and knee joint, which are the two hinge joints in our body. So you will have to learn the types of joints. Immovable joint, example is the joints of our skull bones. Semi-movable joint, example is the joints of the different small bones in our vertebral column. Third one is the movable joint, which are of two types, ball and socket, the shoulder joint and the hip joint. And next one is the hinge joint. The examples include elbow joint and knee joint. Okay, so these things are very easy. They are not at all difficult to understand. You just need to learn these things by understanding what they are about. Lastly, you will find a chart. You will find a chart here, right? This chart is about the different types of movement and which skeletal muscles are involved in those movements and how they are operated, means the mechanism of their operation. So the different types of movements are flexion, extension, abduction, adduction and rotation. Now depending on the type of the movement, that type of muscle takes place in that type of movement. Just like flexion, the type of movement is flexion, and the flexor muscles which are present in the bicep of the hand, this is the bicep of our hand, and gastrocnemius of the leg, these muscles, which are basically types of flexor muscles, take part in this flexion movement. Okay, next one is the extension type of movement, where extensor muscles take part, and extensor muscles are found in the triceps of our hand. So this is the bicep and the back portion is the tricep. So just like this, you will have to remember the different types of muscles and which type of movement they are involved in. That is all. You don't have to learn a lot about from this chart, and then at the end you will find there are approximately 640 skeletal muscles in human body. These are all needed for very small objective type questions, and in your book you will find more informations given like this for reference only, green boxes, and here also some informations are given. These are not at all required. You just go through what I have told, because when you will solve test papers, you will find that many such objective questions are coming from these chapters, especially the different types of joints, this type of movements, and the muscles that are involved in this type of joints, and then the type of locomotion in different animals. So these things are very, very important, especially for objective, obviously, and also short answer type questions, 2 or 3 marks. They are very, very important. Okay, so I hope you have understood this chapter, and if you have any problem, I will discuss that in the next online class. Okay, thank you.